Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I've been meaning to post this one for a couple of weeks now, but I got sick and I've been actually having a lot of schoolwork, so not much time. But I at least wanted to post this video before Nationals because it's tomorrow and I feel like I should do a recap before the comp. So if you haven't watched my other videos or you're new to my channel, I basically qualified for Nationals during Provincials here in Quebec. And ever since then, I've been training my comp abilities, so basically trying comp style boulders or moves and trying to get boulders in 4 minutes. So basically trying to develop some comp tactics. This has also been the first year I've been competing in, so first Provincials, first Nationals, and I've been really having fun during the friendly competitions. So for now, I'm really just enjoying the journey. I'm not having too much stress on the competitions, and tomorrow I'm gonna just try to have some fun because there will be 6 boulders made for us and I'll just have a great time. I won't worry too much about the results because for the first Nationals, I think the best thing to do is simply have fun. Alright, I'm gonna get into the boulders now. So basically, I've been trying these comp boulders at my gym because there was youth provincials happening a few weeks ago, so it was perfect practice. So basically, all of these boulders were pretty hard and really of a comp style. And some of these boulders I actually couldn't get because they were tweaked a little. So basically the route setters after the comp, they made it a little harder, especially for this one and some other boulders. But for the majority, I could get the scent of the boulders. And it was really cool to try these boulders because some of them had some interesting comp style moves that I think were really useful to practice before Nationals. So for example, now we have a V8 that starts off with this hold that has 0 frictions. So if you don't know these holds, they are basically all dual text. And I know not a lot of gyms have these ones because I think they're expensive, but it's really cool to give some tries on boulders with these holds because you usually have to squeeze them more than usual, or you have to put less chalk. And it's basically really tricky. If you haven't touched them before, it's gonna be really hard to move on them. But fortunately, the boulders had these holds, so I could practice and trying to figure out how to hold them. So as you saw there, I spent like 2 minutes trying to figure out my beta on my first attempt, and it was just not working. I thought it was a small box because usually these boulders were made for smaller athletes, but as it turns out, I just had a bad beta, and I had to place my foot a little lower than the one I tried on my first attempt. But getting to the zone wasn't really difficult per se, it was more like a beta stuff. So once I figured it out, it wasn't too bad. And the top section was fine too. The only tricky part for me was the last move because I'm really bad at these type of coordination where you have to flip one of your hand. And I've been noticing this on a couple of competitions now because I'm always falling on these moves. For some reason, I'm bad at catching myself with either my right hand or left hand when I'm flipping it. So I've been trying to work on that and I think I got a little better, but I can definitely see it's kind of a weakness I have. So let's look at my first attempt on this boulder. You can see I was just sliding completely on that dual text hold, and I think I had too much chalk on, and you probably need to get some more wet hands because it's gonna stick more. But when I came back on another session, the move was really not an issue. I could get it consistently. The only problem was the rest of the boulder. It's actually super hard, and I didn't get the scent of this boulder because the holds are pretty bad. You don't have much chalk, and they twisted the hold up there where you see those 2 holds on the right. They used to be more horizontal, so you basically can just jump and then catch yourself with the jug. But now, as you can see, the right hold is twisted a little, so you have to like cup the hold, which is super weird. And after a lot of attempts, I still couldn't figure it out, so I decided to go on another boulder. So this one was actually really interesting. At first, I was giving myself a lot of swing to go into this toe hook catch, and it's basically really tricky for me because I never do these type of moves, and also the box was a little small. But that's definitely some excuses because I know some people of my height did this one, and I've been really working on this move and I finally figured it out. I did this drop knee toe hook at the same time and I fit in the box. but I should have probably done this one again to make it more clean. And I still think it was a nice thing to work on because I never do these type of moves, but I really enjoyed it, so I thought it was great to have tried this one. Okay, so another one that is super dynamic, and again you see these holds with no friction, and the start was actually pretty hard to hold. This is my first attempt, and as you saw there, I was a little delayed with my left hand when I went to the next one. So what I did on my second try is I went at the same time with my two hands on the first black hold and then on the zone with two hands again. It was probably not the cleanest, but I was happy to get this one in 2 attempts, because when I looked at the boulder, I thought it was going to take me around 10 attempts, and I didn't even know if it was something I would be good at. But as it turned out, I was pretty comfortable in the moves, and again, I really enjoyed this boulder. I thought it was a great thing to work on before nationals, because I don't do this move often either. So it's really some great practice that they had for the youth provincials. So I was happy to try all these boulders. But now we're going on a big slab, and somebody actually got this slab in 4 minutes. Maxime Terrien, who is 17 years old, I believe. And this is crazy to get in 4 minutes. It took me around like 25 tries and I think 2 sessions because I couldn't figure out this middle section. I didn't have the best shoes for this type of slab, but even though my shoes were not the best, I was really just struggling on positioning and the holds were super bad. So getting this one in 4 minutes is actually pretty crazy. So I did get the zone on my first attempt, but I think it wasn't really challenging. The real challenging part is the middle section, and I would say even the ending is pretty hard because you gotta keep your balance and do like a squat when you're really not comfortable on the volume. And even here you have to really go up slowly because the left hand could pop any second, and I'm grabbing some screw holds because I am barely keeping myself on the wall. And once I got my left foot there on the white hold, I wasn't too bad. But the last move, like I said, is pretty challenging. You gotta go up, and I almost fell again. And I grabbed some screw holds again because I was almost falling and I didn't want to do this boulder again. So now we're on a V10, and this one is actually a super hard boulder because you gotta do this paddle at the beginning, and even the ending section is kind of tricky. But on my first session, I had like no pulling strength. I really couldn't do this paddle, and I thought it was gonna be impossible for me. But as it turned out, it was really that day I was feeling weak, and I at least wanted to get the paddle from the holds up there. And I still felt like there was no possible way I could get this one, especially because the holds I was generating from the start were really not too good. But as you can see here, I'm on another session, and somehow I felt really good on that session and I could get the paddle. And it was pretty limited, but I felt like I could do that one again, and I felt super strong on that session. Unfortunately, I did miss the ending because right here I was pretty exhausted from my session. I think it was like 2.5 hours in, and I messed up the big jug in the middle section, but I'm gonna show you a clip of the real ending. So basically, once you get here, you really gotta keep the left hand, and basically you have this right crimp, you see, but it's not too good. So once you get it, you basically have to commit to the last move and really try to hit it perfectly because it's not a big jug. Okay, so now we're on another gym. This is Délire Lévis. And there was another competition that happened in this gym, so it was mostly a friendly competition, but there were still some qualifying boulders that I could try. And I started off with number 18 because the boulders weren't too hard before that, but it really got hard on the 20s. So this one was actually fine. The holds are actually super cool to climb on. They're like big slopers, and the friction is still there because the gym is pretty new. And it's just a super enjoyable boulder, not too crazy in terms of strength, but I had some fun climbing all of them. So my goal for that session was to get the qualifying boulders, of course, and also to try to flash them or get them in the least tries possible. And that gym also had some other competition boulders that weren't in the comp, but they were just like comp style, so there will be some comp boulders at the end of my session. But for now, I'm just going to show you what the qualifying boulders looked like, and it really got hard once it started from the 20s. And this gym also uses circuits, so it goes from circuit 1 to circuit 8, and I would say circuit 6, the one you just saw, was around V7. So now we're on boulder number 20 out of 24, and this one is supposed to be a dyno. You go up on the left, and then you take the crimp and land on the right foot. But as you're seeing on my first attempt, I'm trying to figure out another beta because I'm not feeling comfortable. And I spent a good minute trying to figure out every possible position, and I ended up doing this beta, but it didn't work on my first attempt, and I was pretty disappointed because I thought I was gonna get a flash of this boulder, but as it turned out, it was a little more tricky than I thought. So on my second attempt, I tried to do something different, go right foot and then trying to lift my left foot up, but it was not working because the position was too awkward. And on my third attempt, I tried something really different, and it was really cool that it worked, but I definitely think that's not the right beta because it was super weird. But as you can see here, I'm squatting up on the right hold, and I go left hand on this crimp, and I almost fell. I catch myself with my legs, I try to balance myself, but it was pretty limit. And even the ending of this boulder is a little tricky because you gotta get this arête, which is rounded, and then go left hand on the last hold. But that was definitely like a super cool comp boulder that required some good positioning and coordination. So here's a clip of Frank, my friend, and he is doing the right beta, which is basically going left foot, then you jump, and once you catch the crimp, you go right foot. And it's definitely a lot cleaner than me. But at the end, he almost died going to the last move because the foot popped. Okay, so now we're on boulder 21, and this boulder was actually super awkward for me. So these holds, I don't think I've tried them before, but just by looking at them, I knew they were very bad. And I could get a nice flash of this boulder, but I was not comfortable the whole way up because I had to lock off on these really slopey holds, and for some reason I didn't have much energy going into this boulder. But once I got to these crimps, I could just not drop the ending because the crimps were better, and I think the middle section was definitely the hardest. So I didn't expect much from this boulder and from my energy, but as it turned out, I'm super proud to get a flash of this boulder. Okay, now we're getting serious. Number 22. I tried this one at least 10 times, and I was always messing up at the same place. Where you see those two underclings and then get to the crimp that is capped. But for some reason I was just not feeling good on the box, and every time I was just falling once I got there because I think my drop knee was just not really fitting in that box. So after a couple of tries, I gave up on this boulder. And now we're on number 23, and this one is super hard. So this is my first attempt, and I was happy to get at least the first movement on my flash go. But this is a super physical boulder, and I would say it's way harder than it looks. And on the middle section, I had no idea what to do because you have these really slopey holds, and when I tried to put my toe hook in, I felt like the box was very small. And basically, when you saw me step on this foot, I didn't want to do that, so I basically tried to jump. But as it turned out, you need to put your foot there and then this toe hook. But every time I have to put a toe hook on, I'm super weird and I'm really long, so the boxes usually don't match me. But when I tried it isolated, I could get the move. So yes, it's a matter of box, but I just gotta get better at toe hooking and keeping the tension with my toe hook. And even the last section is very hard. You gotta pull on this sloper, and the last hold is very far. So once again, I had to give up on this boulder because it was very physical and I wanted to try some other boulders. So now number 24, the supposedly hardest one in the qualifying round, but it was definitely easier than number 23 and probably 22 for me. But this is a big slab, so it's like a different style completely. And on my first attempt, I actually made some really good progress. I thought it was gonna take me like 50 attempts to get this boulder, but as it turned out, on my first attempt, I really figured out the beginning section pretty good, and this very small crimp, I could get a match of it. I think I had like one finger in, and I could somehow keep myself on the wall, but I didn't see the right crimp you see there. So on my first attempt, I tried to go up because I really missed that crimp, and I think it could have been possible, but it's definitely way harder than taking the crimp. But I'm very proud of my first attempt. I think my slap skills are fine, and my reading was definitely the issue here because I didn't see the crimp. But on my second attempt, I adjusted, and my friend told me that I didn't see the crimp, so I was like, oh, there was a crimp. But yeah, on my second attempt, I was feeling more comfortable, and I could get to this point again. And once you grab this underclink, it's pretty good, but you gotta do this rotation on the right side, and it's definitely awkward. But the last move is for sure the hardest one, at least for me, because I had to find the balance to get the match, because the last hold is inexistent. It's basically just a small, like, it's not even a foothold, it's just a decoration. You can't really grab it, and sometimes I put my nail on the last holds. This one, there wasn't even a nail fitting in. It was really nothing there. So I spent like a good minute trying to put some heel hook on, some toe hook on, but I could find myself some balance and get the match of this boulder. So really cool one, and I'm really surprised I got this one in 2 attempts. So now we're moving on to a big dyno. It wasn't in the comp, but it's a comp style boulder, and I was really proud to get a flash of this one because this dyno is actually not too easy. It probably did look easy on that attempt, but you have this big volume right in front of you, so you can't even see the hold. So you basically jump blindly, and yeah, I surprised myself again by getting a flash of this boulder, and the ending wasn't too bad for me, but the dyno, very satisfying to get it. It's finally giving myself some hope for dynos because I'm usually very bad at them. So I decided to include this boulder also in the comp style category because you gotta do this jump to a small crimp. It really resembles a kilter boulder because it only has like 3 moves and you gotta jump on crimps, but it was still pretty technical to jump on it, and there could be a boulder that resembled this one in the competition. But this boulder wasn't really tricky, it was mostly about precision on how you hit the crimp up there. Okay, second to last boulder. This one is a circuit 5, so around V6, V7, and it's usually not really hard for me, these type of grades, but this one, the route setter challenged me to flash it, and I could not get a flash because my foot slipped, and I'm pretty sure if you didn't tell me anything, I would have flashed it. I was just, for some reason, pressured, but on my second attempt, I stopped fooling around, and I could get the boulder. But I put this one in this video because I really think it's a competition style boulder. You have this lab that you're uncomfortable the whole way up, and you basically have these holds that are completely flipped around. None of these holds are in a good way, and I feel like it's a good practice because it makes you uncomfortable, but somehow it works. So really cool boulder. Okay, so this is the last boulder of the video, and for some reason I put this one in the competition style boulders. I think it's because of the middle section that has a small dynamic movement, but it was mostly some finger strength, and it was pretty hard. I would say it was like a hard V9, but in this middle section it's super awkward because you gotta drop down, and as you see the hold on the left, you really gotta take this type of volume and transition. So on my first attempt I couldn't really figure it out and I fell on the volume, but then on my second attempt I just went for it, and you'll see in a second what I mean by it. But these crimps were kind of hurting my fingers, so I was really hoping to get this one on my second or I think third attempt. But here you can see when I'm grabbing this volume, I flip my hand around, and you have like no choice to go down in a dynamic way because you're dropping down, but the hold is very good and you don't have any feet because the volumes are in the other way. So that was all the boulders I wanted to share for this video. So I'm really excited to do nationals tomorrow, and I hope I'm not gonna be sick because it would suck. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.